My name is Isla Monroe. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, a place where everyone knew each other and summer evenings smelled like fresh lemons and distant laughter. From a very young age, I loved music, not in a professional way, but in the kind that made me hum tunes during breakfast and tap rhythms on my school desk. That's how I met him. Cale Rivers. He sat behind me in 8th grade and used to drum lightly on his notebook, keeping time with whatever I was humming. It was silly, but it felt like we had some secret code. Cale wasn't like other boys. He was gentle, thoughtful, and incredibly curious about the world. We became friends easily, sharing playlists, trading silly poems, and sneaking out to watch stars from the hilltop just behind our school. Our friendship wasn't loud. It was the kind that grew quietly, like ivy climbing an old fence. High school made things more complicated. Cale joined the soccer team, and I started performing in school theater. Our paths split a little, but every time we crossed in the hallway, he'd still smile that same old smile, the one that always made me feel like I belonged somewhere. But I never told him how I felt. I was afraid of changing everything, afraid of ruining the friendship, afraid that maybe, just maybe, he didn't feel the same, so I stayed quiet. Senior year came faster than expected. College brochures started piling up, and the thought of growing up suddenly felt real. Cale and I still talked, but we weren't as close as before. It wasn't anyone's fault, just time pulling us in different directions. Then, one day, out of nowhere, he texted me. "Want to catch the meteor shower tonight?" My heart jumped. We met at the old hilltop, like we used to. Blankets, snacks, and that same feeling of everything being still. He pointed out constellations while I wrote lines in my notebook. Somewhere between the silence, he said, "Isla, do you ever wonder if timing changes everything?" I looked at him, the boy who once drummed along to my humming. "Every day." He smiled. "Sometimes I feel like we're a story paused on the wrong page." I wanted to ask what he meant, but the words stayed stuck inside. Instead, we sat in silence, wrapped in stars, and I knew something was shifting. After that night, Cale started texting more. Random questions, shared songs, late-night thoughts. It felt like we were finding our rhythm again. Then came the winter dance. I didn't plan to go, but when Cale asked me, just as friends, I said yes. At night, the gym was filled with lights and laughter. Cale wore a navy suit, and I borrowed my sister's dress. We danced, slowly and awkwardly, and it was perfect. "I'm glad we came," he whispered. "Me too," I replied, wondering if he could hear my heart. But nothing more happened. No grand confession, just a beautiful evening shared smiles, and a long hug at the end. It was both everything and not enough. In the spring, Kale got accepted into a university in Colorado. I got into one in Washington. Reality hit. We were about to leave. We had one final picnic near the lake where we used to race paper boats as kids. The sky was blue, and the air smelled like fresh pine. "I'm going to miss this," I said. "Me too," he replied. "But we'll keep in touch, right?" I nodded. "Promise." He took out an old songbook we used to share and handed it to me. Inside, he'd written, "No matter where life takes us, you'll always be my melody." I almost cried, but instead I hugged him. Maybe that was our ending, or maybe it was just the beginning of something else. College was exciting, terrifying, and busy. At first, Kale and I messaged often, video calls, silly voice notes, weekend updates, but slowly the calls became shorter. The replies took longer. Then one day, I saw a picture on social media. Kyle with a girl smiling at a campus festival. Her name was Harper. I didn't feel anger, just a quiet ache. He messaged later, "Wanted to tell you about Harper. She's kind. You'd like her." I replied, "I'm happy for you." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Over time, Kale talked less about us and more about her. I listened, I supported, I smiled through the updates, but at night I'd sit by my window and write letters I never sent, about the moments we never had, about the what-ifs. One day, I accidentally saw a photo of Harper wearing the necklace I once gifted Kale for good luck. He'd passed it on. That night, I cried, not because he belonged to someone else, but because I had waited too long. During sophomore year, I visited home. The town hadn't changed much, but I had. More quiet, more grown. Kale was in town too. We met at a local cafe. He brought Harper. She was sweet, funny, confident. Everything I wasn't at her age. Kale looked happy, truly happy. After they left, I walked to the old hilltop alone. The wind carried echoes of our laughter from years ago, and I finally understood. He wasn't mine to lose. He never had been. Back in college, I threw myself into writing. My professor encouraged me to publish a short story. I wrote about a boy who kept time with a girl's heartbeat. It wasn't our story, but it had pieces of us. Kale read it online and messaged me, "You've always had a way with words." I replied, "And you, a way with people." We didn't need to say more. Some connections don't need conclusions. Graduation came, my parents clapped. My friends cheered. I stood there, diploma in hand, wondering what was next. Later that night, I found a small note in my mailbox. "Proud of you. K. I smiled. Maybe it was just a note, or maybe it was a quiet goodbye. Today, I teach creative writing in Seattle. My students are young and hopeful. Sometimes they ask if I've ever been in love. I smile and say, once, with someone who taught me that love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go with grace. Kale is married now. I saw the pictures. They looked beautiful. And me? I'm at peace. Because even though he was never mine, he was once my everything, and that's a story worth remembering.